It's important to make a quick assessment of your lighting conditions when you're composing a picture. Take some time to think about your location. Are you indoors, outdoors? Where is the light source? Another thing to think about, particularly if you're outdoors, is the time of day. Morning and afternoon sun will affect your pictures in many different ways. Knowing the light sources in your surroundings will make it easier to take great pictures. Remember that even professional photographers have to take numerous photos just to get a few great ones. So don't be afraid to shoot a lot of pictures in many different settings using different perspectives. You can always delete the ones you don't want. Shooting at eye level is a good rule of thumb, but also try lots of different angles and make sure that you use your zoom to get in close. Professional photographers take the camera everywhere, and you should too. The grocery store, the park, daycare, sporting events, family gatherings. You never know when a great opportunity will arise. Let's take a look at the first in a series of specific lighting scenarios you may run into. You're outside at the park and you want to take some pictures of children. It's the middle of the afternoon and the sun is high. The park has a playground, a few picnic tables, and an area with a small gathering of trees. Where should you set up your photo? If you're looking for the best lighting conditions, the shaded area would be the best. The shade that the trees provide will help the children look more natural in the photos. If you place them in the shade, they won't squint their eyes like they would if they were placed in direct sunlight. Also, the shady area will produce fewer shadows and smoother, more even skin tones. Here's how the pictures look in the shade. The pictures look pretty good, but there's something you would like to change. Since the children are sitting in full shade, their faces seem a little dark in the photos. No light is falling on their eyes, and the whole picture just seems to need a boost of some kind. One way to give your photo this boost is to add a little light and depth with a reflector. A reflector is simply an object that bounces light from the light source to your subject. In this scenario, a reflector would bounce the light from the sun onto the children's faces. You can pick up a reflector from almost any camera store. All you need is a willing assistant and you're ready to go. You'll want to experiment with positioning the reflector in a variety of ways and from different distances and angles until the light shines on your subjects in a pleasing way. Now let's say that you finished taking those nice portraits in the shade and now you want some fun pictures of your children laughing and having fun on the playground. The trouble is, the playground is positioned in direct sunlight, and your children have harsh shadows on their faces, so it's difficult to see their facial features. What can you do? There are things you can use to reduce the harsh shadows. You can use your reflector to bounce more light onto their faces. The light will help fill in the shadowed areas. You can also use your camera's built-in flash. The flash will fill in shadows, and you'll be able to see your children's faces better in the photos. We'll discuss more about using flash later. When taking pictures of children, it's usually interesting to capture their movements and action, even if the light isn't perfect. So you decide it would be fun to take a picture of the kids on the swings. The trouble this time is that the sun is shining so brightly from behind that your children appear very dark in the photos. In this setting, the source light is called backlight. And although it's a little challenging, you can work around it. First, you can use your camera's flash. It will compensate for the lack of light falling on your children's faces, and your children will be properly exposed in your photos. Another option to help fix your backlit subjects is to adjust your aperture and shutter speed to properly expose the subject and not the background. The background in the photo will appear very bright, but the subject will be properly exposed. To do this, make sure that your camera is in manual mode. Look through the viewfinder and press the shutter halfway down to activate the light meter. As you adjust the aperture, shutter speed, or ISO, the exposure indicator will get closer or farther away from the center of the scale. The meter in your camera measures light reflected from your subject and is called, logically enough, a reflective meter. Camera manufacturers calibrate meters so that when the meter is zeroed or showing correct exposure, Whatever you point your meter at will be rendered as if the subject was of average brightness, or what is referred to as 18% reflectance. 18% reflectance means that 18% of the light striking the subject is reflected. The rest is absorbed. 18% reflectance is neither light nor dark, it's right in the middle. Now, since many scenes in the world will average out to, well, average reflectance, going by what the camera meter indicates is correct will often work just fine. However, not all scenes or subjects are medium tone, 18% reflectance, and you'll need to know when to take command of your meter. Most cameras have an indicator in the viewfinder that displays metering information. It's usually a scale with 0 in the middle and plus and minus on either side. If the meter indicator is on the plus side, this means that the subject will come out lighter than expected. If the meter is on the minus side, then you'll get a subject that's darker than expected. Your camera typically meters for the entire image. If it measures a large bright area, the bright background, it will compensate and account for very dark areas in the image too, the child on the swing. You'll want to only meter what you really want to be properly exposed in the photo, the child. Move in close to the child and fill your frame with the child's face before he starts swinging, of course. Adjust your aperture and shutter speed so that the camera's light meter indicates that you have a good exposure. Now, back up and take the picture. You'll notice that when you pull back, the scale arrow on your camera's light meter will not be close to the center, and you may be tempted to change your aperture or shutter speed. Remember that because you set the exposure directly off the face of your subject, you'll be sure to have great photos of the kids and not necessarily the background. All right, let's look at another situation. Every day when you're on your way to and from your home, you drive past this building. You think to yourself, that would be a great place for a picture. You meet a friend there to take some pictures. When you get there, you realize that the sun is so bright it's difficult to get a nice photo. There are harsh shadows and your friend is squinting so much that it's difficult to see her eyes. What can you do? Well, you can use a reflector or your flash to fill, like we talked about earlier, or you can come back to the building at another time of day when the light is more diffused. Sunlight moves and changes in predictable ways throughout the day, and chances are that if the building is lit by full sun in the morning, it will have shade in the afternoon. Learning to watch the way the sunlight moves will help you take great pictures in locations that have beautiful ambient light. So next time you see a great spot for taking pictures, make a note of the lighting conditions at that time of day. Another thing to remember about outdoor photography is that cloudy days are good. Don't get discouraged if it's overcast on a picture day. The clouds will actually make the light in your photos better. Overcast days diffuse the light, making shadows softer and skin tones more even. The best lighting for photography is just after sunrise and right before sunset. Harsh midday light can make your subject squint or create shadows on your subject's face. So if you're taking pictures outside in the afternoon, remember to find a shady spot. We've looked at lighting situations that you may run into when you're outdoors taking pictures, and hopefully the information will help you know how to better handle the lighting conditions when shooting outside. Now, let's talk about lighting conditions when you're shooting indoors. Many memories can be captured inside your home. You will probably want to capture holidays, birthday parties, special events, and everyday moments that happen indoors. The next few chapters of this DVD will guide you through some common indoor lighting situations and ways to handle each of them.